December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Imagine the sky over Hawaii that morning. Quiet, blue, peaceful. As if the world itself was still asleep. And then, at 7:55 a.m., the silence tore open. Japanese aircraft roared out of the clouds, metallic shadows slicing through the morning light. Explosions shook the harbor. Battleships capsized. The air filled with fire, screams, chaos. For the soldiers on the ground, there was no time to think, no time to plan, no time to prepare. War arrived without knocking. And in that moment, America learned something that Sun Tzu wrote 2,500 years ago. If you are not prepared, you will lose before the battle even begins. The shock of Pearl Harbor wasn't just military. It was psychological. It reminded the world of a truth we like to ignore. Conflict doesn't wait for your permission. War, whether on the battlefield or inside your own life, comes suddenly. And my friend, even though we are not soldiers in 1941, we fight wars every single day. Wars with our self-doubt. Wars with fear. Wars with stress. Wars with ambition. Wars with people who misunderstand us. Wars with circumstances we didn't choose. Wars with a world that keeps changing faster than we can adapt. Sun Tzu's The Art of War is not really a book about fighting external enemies. It's a book about understanding conflict, mastering strategy, and winning battles with the mind, not the sword. Let me take you to another moment. June 6th, 1944, Normandy. D-Day. Thousands of Allied soldiers stormed the beaches of France. Every step made under enemy fire, every inch gained through sacrifice. But the battle wasn't won by force alone. It was won months earlier, through planning, deception, strategy, patience, through understanding the enemy's mind more than their weapons. Sun Tzu would have said, victorious warriors win first and then go to war. We think life breaks us in the moment of conflict, but Sun Tzu whispers, no, life breaks you long before that if you don't prepare your mind. My friend, think of your own life. How many battles did you lose because you entered them unprepared? How many arguments turned uglier because you reacted emotionally, not strategically? How many opportunities slipped away because your mind wasn't aligned? How many times did you fight the wrong battle because ego pulled you in? How many times did you exhaust yourself because you didn't understand one simple truth? Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every enemy is your real enemy. Not every attack needs a reaction. The art of war isn't just about war. It's about the psychology of conflict, the strategy of survival, the wisdom of choosing when to fight and when to walk away. Sun Tzu teaches you how to manage your emotions in chaos, how to stay centered when everyone else panics, how to win without unnecessary destruction. He teaches you that the greatest victory is not defeating others, it's mastering yourself. And in a world this loud, this unpredictable, this demanding, maybe the real battle isn't out there. Maybe the real battlefield is inside you. This is the art of war through the lens of the modern mind. Take a breath. You're listening to Wise Alchemy. My friend, before we talk about strategies and generals and armies, Sun Tzu asks us to understand something far deeper. War is not just fought on battlefields. War begins in the mind. And to understand this, we step back into the real world. Let's return to the date February 24, 2022, when the invasion of Ukraine began, and the world watched breathless as cities fell under fire and lives split in seconds. Millions of people woke up that day realizing something Sun Tzu wrote 2,500 years ago. War is devastating, not because armies collide, but because certainty collapses. But here's the part most people never think about. The same principles that determine the fate of nations also determine the fate of your inner world. Your fears, your decisions, your emotional battles, your conflicts with others, your conflicts with yourself. Sun Tzu wasn't just a general. He was a psychologist long before psychology existed. If you don't understand the nature of conflict, you will lose every battle, external or internal. Sun Tzu opens with a sentence so bold, it almost feels like a slap. War decides everything. Not just victory and defeat, but survival and extinction, power and collapse, order and chaos. Sun Tzu forces you to confront a harsh truth. Ignoring conflict is more dangerous than conflict itself. Whether it's a war between nations or a war inside your heart, denial is the fastest path to destruction. People don't break because life gets hard. They break because they refuse to face the battles brewing inside them. Sun Tzu says every conflict, from global wars to arguments with your partner to fights with your own self-doubt, can be understood through 5 forces. 1. The moral law. What do you truly believe in? What values do you refuse to betray? This is your emotional backbone. Without inner alignment, you lose before you even begin. 2. Heaven. The conditions you cannot control. Timing, luck, fate, environment. Some people lose not because they're weak, but because the moment wasn't right. 3. Earth. Your situation, your terrain, your resources, strengths, weaknesses. Sun Tzu says, if you don't know where you stand, you cannot know where to go. 4. The commander. Your calmness, your clarity, your discipline, your emotional intelligence. This is leadership over others or yourself. 5. Method and discipline. The plan, the structure, the consistency. Talent wins small battles. Discipline wins wars. These 5 forces decide whether a warrior or a person thrives or collapses. Sun Tzu revealed something profound. You don't lose battles because of the enemy. You lose battles because of your ignorance. Ignorance of your emotions, ignorance of your weaknesses, ignorance of your habits, ignorance of your patterns. The real enemy is often internal: fear, hesitation, ego, anger, impulsiveness, denial, self-doubt. The battlefield inside is far more dangerous than anything happening outside. Nations fall when leaders ignore reality. People fall when they ignore themselves. Sun Tzu says something brilliant. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war. What does that mean? It means the battle is won in preparation, in awareness, in clarity, in understanding. Most people rush into conflict blindly. They argue without understanding. They chase goals without knowing their strengths. They fight emotions without understanding their roots. They react instead of thinking. Sun Tzu would say they are going to war without first winning, and that is why they lose. Before we go deeper into strategies, Sun Tzu pauses and forces us to confront something uncomfortable. War is expensive, not just in money, but in time, morale, energy, spirit, and life. People often read The Art of War as a book about winning, but Sun Tzu begins by warning us. War is a burden. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Let's step into this chapter the way Sun Tzu intended, with honesty. Sun Tzu writes, "In war, let your great object be victory, not long campaigns. Because a long war doesn't just drain resources, it drains the soul of a nation." And in our modern world, this truth still applies. You may not be fighting with swords, but every battle in life, a conflict, a grudge, an argument, a rivalry, a toxic relationship, drains you. Mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Sun Tzu is asking you a simple question. Is this war worth the cost? Most aren't. Sun Tzu goes deeper and says something profound. Every war has an unseen cost. In ancient China, that cost was food shortages, empty fields, villages left unprotected, and soldiers drained of strength. But in your life, the cost looks like this: time you'll never get back, sleep you lose over conflict, peace you sacrifice for pride, relationships damaged by ego, opportunities wasted because you were busy fighting, the emotional fatigue of carrying resentment. Some battles leave you victorious, but empty. Sun Tzu warns, he who knows the cost of war is hesitant to begin one. Wisdom isn't winning fights. It's knowing which fights are worth starting. Sun Tzu says something powerful. Anger can turn to joy. Resentment can turn to delight. But a kingdom once destroyed cannot be restored. In other words, your emotions recover. Your ego heals. Your pride returns. But the damage caused while emotional might be permanent. My friend, how many people have ruined relationships, lost careers, broken friendships, or destroyed opportunities in a moment of anger? Sun Tzu is whispering to you, do not start a war just because you feel something. Start it only if logic says you must. In the ancient world, a long campaign broke the army. In the modern world, a long emotional conflict breaks the mind. Burnout is the modern form of battlefield exhaustion. Constant tension, constant pressure, constant vigilance, constant competition. Nobody can fight forever. Sun Tzu teaches, victory belongs to the one who chooses battles wisely. Not to the strongest, not to the fastest, not to the most aggressive. To the one who preserves their energy and strikes only when necessary. This is the essence of the entire book. Sun Tzu says, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Avoid unnecessary conflict. Diffuse situations early. Win through intelligence, not destruction. Resolve before escalation." Imagine applying this to life. Avoid arguments you don't need. Walk away from toxic people. Protect your peace. Save your energy. Choose patience over ego. Speak calmly instead of loudly. You win far more through strategy than through force. Sun Tzu isn't teaching how to fight better. He's teaching how to fight less. A wise general wins before war begins. A foolish one celebrates battle, but mourns the cost. My friend, the real question of this chapter is, what battles in your life are costing you too much? Because not every enemy is worth fighting. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every conflict is a path to victory. Sometimes, walking away is the most strategic move. Have you ever noticed that in life, just like in war, the moment of impact is never the moment the outcome is decided? The sword clash, the explosion, the strike, the confrontation, they are just the final echo of something that was already determined long before. Sun Tzu believed this with absolute certainty. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. In other words, the real battle happens in the mind. Let's step back onto the battlefield to understand this. Imagine a commander in ancient China standing on a hill before a war. The soldiers below sharpen their blades, the horses stomp against the earth, the torches flicker in the cold night wind. But the commander isn't looking at the enemy. He's looking at the terrain, the river, the weather, the morale, the discipline, the supply chains, his own weaknesses. He knows the enemy is only one part of the war. Everything else, environment, timing, movement, psychology, is equally powerful. Sun Tzu teaches that war is rarely lost because of the enemy. It is lost because of unpreparedness. This is not just about ancient battles, my friend. It's about your battles too. Sun Tzu says, "If you are in chaos, the enemy will defeat you. If you are in order, the enemy cannot touch you." Think of your own life. When your mind is scattered, any small setback feels deadly. When your emotions are unstable, any criticism feels like war. When your goals are unclear, any obstacle feels like defeat. When your habits are weak, any temptation wins easily. The enemy is not always outside. Disorder within you invites defeat. Order within you creates victory. Sun Tzu believed that position is everything. Not aggression, not strength, not rage. Position. He wrote, "To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands." Meaning, if you place yourself correctly, the enemy cannot harm you. This is why great generals attack when the enemy is weak, retreat when the enemy is overwhelming, strike from a high ground, fight with the wind, not against it, use terrain as a weapon, choose the right moment, not the loudest one. Timing is victory. Position is protection. Life works the same way. Position yourself near the right people. Position your mind with clarity. Position your habits for success. Position your emotions with stability. Position your environment to support you. Before you fight anything in life, you position yourself to win. Modern people think power is speed, but Sun Tzu says the opposite. He will win who knows when not to fight. How often do we rush into arguments, decisions, conflicts, commitments, goals, without preparation, without thinking, without clarity, without emotional steadiness? Sun Tzu teaches that patience is not hesitation. Patience is strategy. Great warriors wait for the right moment, the right angle, the enemy to expose a weakness, the mind to become calm, the plan to become clear. Impatience leads to regret. Patience leads to precision. This chapter shows something profound. War is mathematics. Life is mathematics. Sun Tzu believed everything can be measured. Advantage, disadvantage, morale, terrain, timing, risk, reward. A commander wins not by passion, but by calculation. And in your own life, measure your strengths, measure your weaknesses, measure your triggers, measure your resources, measure your opportunities, not emotionally, strategically. A calm mind sees the battlefield clearly. A chaotic mind walks into traps. The war outside you is always smaller than the war inside you. Sun Tzu wrote, "If you know yourself and know the enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. But if you don't know yourself, your fears become the enemy. Your impulses betray you. Your confusion ambushes you. Your lack of discipline breaks your defenses. You cannot win a war externally that you've already lost internally. So, before you face the world, you face yourself." Let me take you to a battlefield where raw power meant nothing and strategy meant everything. It was October 21, 1805, the Battle of Trafalgar. The French fleet was larger, their ships were newer, their cannons heavier. By every physical measure, they should have won. But Admiral Nelson did something Sun Tzu would smile at. He ignored strength. He attacked their weakness, their formation. It wasn't muscle that won the battle. It was strategy. And Sun Tzu says it clearly. The general who wins makes many calculations before the battle. Not punches, not noise, not intimidation. Calculations. Let's explore this. If strength is a hammer, strategy is a map. Most people rely on the hammer. They raise their voice. They push harder. They force outcomes. They act fast. They confuse action with power. But Sun Tzu whispers, "The strongest man loses if he fights the wrong battle." A powerful army drowns in a swamp. A talented businessman collapses without a plan. A passionate lover breaks their own heart with impulse. A brilliant student fails because they never think long-term. Strength without strategy is a storm with no direction. Strategy is knowing when to move, when to wait, when to strike, when to disappear, when to speak, when to stay silent, when the battle is not worth fighting. In modern life, the real warriors are those who think before reacting, analyze before attacking, observe before judging, understand before deciding. Strategy is patient, quiet, focused, and that's why it dominates strength. Strength burns quickly. Strategy endures. My friend, Sun Tzu's genius wasn't in fighting harder. It was in winning without fighting. Here's what he believed. If you can break your opponent's plan, you don't need to break their body. If you can confuse them, you don't need to overpower them. If you can predict their move, you don't need to fear it. If you can outthink them, you don't need to outrun them. Strategy lets you win battles before they begin. Apple didn't beat Nokia with more features, they beat them with simplicity. Netflix didn't beat Blockbuster with more stores, they beat them by avoiding stores completely. Muhammad Ali didn't beat Foreman with force, he beat him with the rope-a-dope strategy. A quiet negotiator often wins against an aggressive one because they listen more than they speak. This is Sun Tzu in real time. Win by being smarter, not louder. Because they rely on anger, impulse, pride, ego, reaction, speed, force. They don't pause to think. They don't calculate. They don't observe. They enter the battlefield already defeated by their own emotions. Sun Tzu warns, "He who is quick to anger will always be defeated," because anger blinds strategy. Ego blocks clarity. Emotion interrupts intelligence. Think long-term, not loud-term. Focus on the plan, not the pressure. Understand the terrain before stepping on it. Predict before acting. Avoid unnecessary battles. Use silence as a weapon. Let your mind be your general. Let your emotions be your soldiers, not your commanders. When your mind leads and your emotions follow, you become nearly unbeatable. Not because you're powerful, but because you're intentional. Timing. In war, in strategy, in life, the right move at the wrong time is the wrong move, my friend. Victory is not just about action. It's about when you choose to act. Let me take you to June 6, 1944, D-Day. The Allies had the manpower, the weapons, the intelligence, and the strategy to invade Nazi-occupied France. But they waited. Not days, not weeks. They waited for the weather. Storms were brutal, winds violent, visibility terrible. General Eisenhower knew if he moved too early, thousands would die for nothing. If he moved too late, the Nazis would reinforce their defenses. He waited for the perfect window, a 24-hour break in the storm. One day made the difference between liberation and catastrophe. The timing won the war more than the weapons. Sun Tzu says, "He who is quick to anger will lose. He who is quick to act will fall." Why? Because action born from impatience is the most predictable action, and predictable actions are easy to defeat. Your enemy is strongest when you move too fast. Your life becomes fragile when you move without timing. Think about it. Speaking in anger, investing in fear, reacting without thought, entering relationships too quickly, quitting too soon, confronting people without clarity. These are not mistakes, these are timing errors. You didn't lose because you were weak. You lost because you moved too early or too late. Sun Tzu believed patience was a form of intelligence, waiting for the enemy to get tired, waiting for conditions to shift, waiting for emotional storms to pass, waiting until your strengths align with their weaknesses. In modern terms, wait until your mind is calm before making decisions. Wait until you understand the problem before reacting. Wait until emotions settle before speaking. Wait until the environment favors you before acting. My friend, waiting is not doing nothing. Waiting is preparing for the exact moment where your chances multiply. You've experienced this. Moments where something inside whispers, not yet, not today. And other moments where life feels aligned. You're ready. Move now. Timing is intuition layered with experience. It's your subconscious intelligence speaking. But when ego interferes, timing collapses. Ego says, move now, prove yourself, don't wait. Wisdom says, wait, watch. The right moment is coming. Sun Tzu understood this deeply. Opportunities multiply as they are seized, but only if you seize them at the right moment. Sometimes the greatest victories come from restraint, from not responding to provocation, from not exposing your plan, from not forcing an outcome, from not showing your strengths, from not reacting to insults, from not letting your emotions dictate the moment. Not every battle needs your sword. Some battles need your silence. Some battles need your patience. Some battles need your observation. In life, the person who rushes burns out. The person who waits wins quietly. Here is the part most people never see. Poor timing is almost always emotional. We rush because we're anxious. We delay because we fear failure. We avoid because we feel rejection. We react because we feel disrespected. We confront because we feel insecure. Most strategic errors are really emotional errors. Sun Tzu's wisdom is simple. Master your emotions, or your emotions will master your timing. And once timing collapses, everything collapses. When you master timing, you don't panic, you don't chase, you don't force, you don't overreact, you don't underestimate, you don't regret. You move when the world is ready to support your movement. You strike when everything aligns, your mind, your strength, your environment, your purpose. That's what makes timing the silent weapon of every true strategist. We've walked across battlefields, watched armies collide, and explored the power of timing and strategy. But now we step into a battlefield far more dangerous. A battlefield no one sees. A battlefield inside you. Sun Tzu never fought with rage, never strategized from panic, never planned from pride. Because he understood something modern psychology took centuries to rediscover. The greatest wars are emotional, not physical. History gives us countless examples. In 1940, during the invasion of France, entire military units collapsed, not because they lacked weapons, but because they lacked emotional stability. Soldiers panicked. Officers froze. Fear spread faster than bullets. Sun Tzu said it thousands of years earlier. If your mind is not calm, the battlefield will control you. Most people don't lose because the world is too strong. They lose because their emotions take over at the wrong moment. Fear becomes the enemy. Anger becomes the enemy. Pride becomes the enemy. Ego becomes the enemy. The opponent is only a mirror. Fear destroys clarity. In life, fear tells you, don't try, don't speak, don't dream, don't act, don't stand up, don't step forward. Fear freezes armies. Fear freezes people. But here's the truth, Sun Tzu whispers. Fear isn't a signal to stop. Fear is a signal to prepare. Most people retreat at the first sign of discomfort. The warrior listens to fear, but doesn't obey it. Fear is information, not instruction. Sun Tzu warned, if you are angry, you will be defeated. Anger makes you blind, reckless, predictable. Throughout history, from Roman generals to modern commanders, the greatest losses came not from the enemy's strength, but from a leader's inability to control their own rage. In everyday life, anger costs you relationships, jobs, opportunities, reputation, peace. You might win the argument, but lose the connection. You might win the moment, but lose the war. Pride ruins strategy. Pride makes nations invade at the wrong time. Pride makes leaders refuse good advice. Pride makes intelligent people make stupid choices. Sun Tzu knew, pride leads to destruction. Pride makes you underestimate the enemy, overestimate yourself, ignore preparation, rush decisions, take unnecessary risks. Pride is the emotion that whispers, I cannot lose. And that is exactly when you lose. My friend, desire is not wrong. Ambition is not wrong. Dreaming is not wrong. But Sun Tzu saw a danger. When desire becomes obsession, you stop seeing reality. You chase results instead of strategy. You rush the process. You expose your weaknesses. You walk into traps. A desire must stay balanced by discipline. A warrior desires victory, but never at the cost of clarity. Modern military psychologists study something Sun Tzu mastered centuries ago. Calmness increases intelligence. Emotional chaos reduces it. A calm mind sees patterns. An emotional mind sees threats. A calm mind chooses battles. An emotional mind fights everything. Sun Tzu understood that a commander who cannot control their internal world has already lost control of the external one. People misunderstand this line. It doesn't mean avoiding conflict. It means mastering yourself so completely that the conflict collapses by itself. Because when you don't react emotionally, manipulative people lose power. When you don't respond in anger, arguments dissolve. When you don't fear failure, obstacles shrink. When you don't cling to pride, better solutions appear. Most wars end not by force, but by emotional imbalance. A calm person is undefeated. A controlled person is unpredictable. A wise person becomes a force by presence alone. Not cold, not numb, not emotionless, but emotionally disciplined. A warrior who feels deeply, but chooses wisely. A warrior who observes their emotions instead of obeying them. A warrior who knows, my mind is the battlefield. If I win here, the world cannot defeat me. That is the true art of war.
If there is one principle that decides who survives the storm and who breaks beneath it, it's this: Adaptability. Every great general in history knew this. Every army that survived impossible odds knew this. Every leader who outlasted chaos knew this. But Sun Tzu said it centuries earlier. In war, the way is like water. What does he mean? Think of history's greatest defeats, not caused by weakness, but by stubbornness. The French army in 1940 still fought World War I tactics in World War II. The British in Singapore in 1942 believed the jungle was impenetrable. Japan walked right through it. Russia in 1905 underestimated Japan because they refused to update strategy. Every downfall had the same root. They refused to adapt. Sun Tzu warns, when a strategy stops working, abandon it immediately. But humans don't like change. We cling to routines, identities, habits, and comfort. That is how battles are lost. Sun Tzu uses water to explain strategy. Water becomes the cup. It becomes the riverbank. It becomes steam, rain, ice. Water adapts instantly to whatever it faces. That's why it always finds a way forward. A mind that can shift, pivot, adjust, observe, and evolve is unbeatable. The strongest tree breaks in a storm, but the bamboo bends. The warrior who adapts survives. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, the Allied forces landed in Normandy. The plan went wrong immediately. Paratroopers scattered. Waves missed their landing zones. Tides shifted. Visibility collapsed. But instead of freezing, instead of panicking, soldiers improvised. They adapted. That adaptability turned disaster into victory. Sun Tzu would have smiled at that. My friend, modern life is its own battlefield. The market shifts. Technology changes. Relationships evolve. People grow apart. Dreams break. Circumstances change. If you stay rigid, life will drag you. But if you adapt, life becomes navigable, even beautiful. Adaptability looks like changing a plan when needed, letting go of old identities, adjusting expectations, learning new skills, accepting new realities, choosing better battles, releasing outdated strategies. You don't lose your power by adapting, you strengthen it. Sun Tzu says, when the enemy advances, retreat. When the enemy retreats, advance. When the enemy rests, disturb. This is not about aggression. It's about rhythm. A warrior who adapts faster controls the tempo of battle. In life too. When someone pulls away, don't chase. When someone becomes hostile, become calm. When chaos rises, slow your pace. When opportunities appear, move quickly. When the world changes, learn early. The one who sets the rhythm sets the outcome. This is where Sun Tzu becomes psychological. He says, a rigid mind loses to an adaptable mind every single time. Why? Because rigidity is controlled by fear. Adaptability is controlled by awareness. A person who adapts is not weak. They are perceptive. They see what others miss. They change before they're forced to. They survive what others break under. Adaptability is not surrender. It is strategic flow. My friend, learn this and your life will change. Strength is not in holding your shape. Strength is in becoming the shape you need. Water doesn't fear obstacles. It flows around them. A warrior does not fear change. he bends with it. A wise person does not resist reality. They dance with it. Adaptability is not just a tactic. It is a way of living without breaking. Sun Tzu understood something long before modern psychology, long before burnout culture, long before we created a world where everyone is exhausted. The strongest warrior is not the one with the most power, but the one who uses the least energy to win. War is not just about force. It is about preserving force. Life is the same. In every real war in history, from the Battle of Verdun in 1916 to the Gulf War in 1991, the soldiers didn't lose because they lacked courage. They lost because they lacked energy. Not just physical energy, but emotional energy, mental energy, strategic energy. Sun Tzu said it clearly. If your forces are exhausted, even victory becomes defeat. Think about that in your own life. You can win an argument, but lose your peace. You can win a job, but lose your health. You can win attention, but lose your identity. Victory means nothing if you destroy yourself to get it. Not soldiers, not weapons, not terrain, not alliances. Energy. Because without energy, your mind cannot think clearly. Your emotions cannot stay stable. Your strategy cannot stay sharp. Your patience cannot survive. Every great general in history knew this. Napoleon said, "Fatigue makes cowards of us all." Sun Tzu simply said, "A tired army is a defeated army." And my friend, many people today are losing battles they could have won because they're fighting while emotionally exhausted. Here is one of Sun Tzu's harshest truths. Most battles are not worth fighting. People waste energy on meaningless arguments, ego fights, jealousy, social comparison, proving themselves, reacting emotionally, overthinking, chasing validation, holding grudges. And then they wonder why they have no strength left for the battles that actually matter. A warrior does not fight to feel powerful. A warrior only fights when necessary. Imagine how much calmer life becomes when you stop fighting every noise, every comment, every irritation. Your energy becomes a strategic weapon, not an emotional leakage. Sun Tzu taught commanders to move quietly, strike rarely, rest often, wait for the right moment, avoid unnecessary conflict, attack only when conditions are perfect. This wasn't passiveness. This was mastery. The same applies to you. Sometimes the smartest move is silence. Sometimes the strongest move is waiting. Sometimes the bravest move is walking away. You do not need to respond to everything. You only need to respond to what matters. My friend, here is the emotional truth. Your heart has limits. If you invest energy into people who drain you, fights you can't win, goals you don't care about, trying to change others, trying to prove yourself, trying to be everywhere at once, you'll have nothing left for the things that actually give life meaning. Sun Tzu would say, use your strength only where your victory is meaningful. Life is long, but your energy is not infinite. Choose your battles so your energy becomes a sword, not a wound. Most people lose because they rush. They panic. They overreact. They push too hard too soon. But Sun Tzu said, "He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight." Energy is preserved through timing. Some victories require action. Some require stillness. Some require preparation. Some require retreat. Retreat is not weakness. Retreat is energy management. Even nature teaches this. A tiger does not attack constantly. It waits. It observes. It saves energy for the moment of certainty. We only see the final strike. We never see the hours of stillness. When you stop giving energy to meaningless battles, your mind becomes clear. Your emotions become calm. Your strategy becomes sharp. Your decisions become wiser. Life stops feeling like a war. Life begins to feel like a game you can win. Sun Tzu's wisdom gently becomes modern truth. Protect your energy, and you will protect your future. Victory belongs not to the strongest, but to the most conserved. My friend, when most people hear the word leadership, they imagine someone standing at the front, loud, confident, powerful, demanding. But Sun Tzu saw leadership differently. To him, leadership wasn't dominance. It wasn't fear. It wasn't authority. It was responsibility, a sacred agreement, a covenant. Not "I command, you obey," but "I carry your fate and you carry mine." In 506 BCE, during the Battle of Boju, Sun Tzu observed a truth that shaped his philosophy forever. Soldiers don't fight for generals. They fight for leaders who protect them. A leader who uses people as tools creates resentment. But a leader who treats people as human beings creates loyalty deeper than fear. The modern world often gets this wrong. Bosses want obedience. Parents want compliance. Politicians want followers. Influencers want attention. But true leadership says, I am responsible for your well-being, your safety, your morale, your trust. That is Sun Tzu's covenant. Sun Tzu believed morale was more powerful than weapons. He wrote, "A leader who inspires his people can win battles before they begin." Think about that. A team with high morale fights harder, thinks clearer, adapts faster. A team with low morale breaks under pressure. The same is true in life. A family with trust becomes unbreakable. A relationship with respect becomes resilient. A workplace with fairness becomes productive. A community with compassion becomes peaceful. Leadership is not control. It is emotional architecture. Sun Tzu said, "A leader is someone who sees danger before others see it, opportunity before others notice it, deception before others fall for it, exhaustion before it becomes collapse, conflict before it becomes war." Leadership is foresight. Most people react. A leader anticipates. Most people panic. A leader prepares. Most people assume. A leader observes. This is why Sun Tzu insisted the leader must have calmness beyond ordinary men. Because the army copies the leader's emotional state. If the leader is afraid, everyone feels it. If the leader is angry, everyone acts blindly. If the leader is steady, everyone breathes again. One of Sun Tzu's most profound ideas: a leader should not drain his people. He warned, when the troops are exhausted, defeat is near. This applies everywhere. A boss who burns out employees creates failure. A partner who drains the other emotionally creates collapse. A parent who pressures a child constantly creates rebellion or fear. A leader protects energy, not consumes it. True leadership is conservation, not destruction. In ancient battles, Sun Tzu expected the general to walk the longest, sleep the least, eat after the soldiers, endure hardship without complaint, because leadership is not privilege, it is sacrifice. Modern people think leadership means you get more. Sun Tzu believed leadership means you owe more. It's a reversal of ego, a dissolving of self-importance, a deep understanding that you cannot command people you are unwilling to serve. Sun Tzu described an army under great leadership as one body with many limbs. If a limb is wounded, the whole body responds. If the leader falls, the army collapses emotionally. This is why Sun Tzu said the greatest leaders listen deeply, speak carefully, act intentionally, prioritize fairness, protect their people, remain honest under pressure, avoid cruelty or arrogance. Leadership is not charisma. It's compassion sharpened by discipline. It's strength softened by wisdom. It's power balanced by empathy. So, my friend, leadership is not about being followed. Leadership is about being trusted. Not about giving orders, but giving confidence. Not about appearing strong, but staying steady. Not about using people, but elevating them. Sun Tzu believed the greatest leader is invisible. You feel their impact, not their ego. And when such a leader rises, victory becomes natural, almost effortless, because people do not fight for commands. People fight for leaders who fight for them. Every war book ever written teaches you how to fight, how to attack, defend, destroy, conquer. But the art of war does something shocking. It teaches you how to win without fighting at all. Sun Tzu believed that the highest form of victory is the one where no blood is spilled, no energy wasted, no chaos created. A victory earned not by force, but by wisdom, timing, perception, and subtle influence. History celebrates battles, but the wisest commanders avoided them. From General Vo Nguyen Giap in Vietnam to Kautilya of ancient India, from Saladin to Nelson Mandela, the greatest victories were born from psychological positioning, diplomacy, strategic pressure, breaking the enemy's will, shifting alliances, removing the enemy's reason to fight. Sun Tzu would say, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. A quiet victory is still a victory, just with less destruction. When two forces collide, the stronger one doesn't always win. The one who controls the narrative, the moment, the environment, the perception, that army wins. Sun Tzu understood human psychology. If you make the enemy doubt, hesitate, overthink, feel uncertain. They lose the battle before swords ever rise. In modern life, this is everywhere. The negotiator who stays calm, the leader who speaks last, the person who listens instead of reacting, the one who chooses silence instead of argument. The real battlefield is always the mind. My friend, most people lose not because they are weak, but because they waste their strength fighting meaningless wars. Arguments that don't matter, ego battles that drain energy, conflicts born from insecurity, proving themselves to people who don't care, trying to win against those who already lost inside. Sun Tzu whispers, "He wins who knows not to fight." Walking away is not weakness, it is strategy. When you say, this battle is useless, you've already won something priceless, your peace. Victory without fighting happens through positioning, placing yourself where conflict cannot hurt you. Reputation. A strong reputation makes enemies hesitate. Information. Knowing the terrain, timing, and opponent. Patience. Let the opponent exhaust themselves. Psychology. Make the enemy defeat themselves through miscalculation. Most wars are won, not by strength, but by mistakes. If you remain calm, the world reveals its openings. The ego says, I must win. I must respond. I must attack. I must prove myself. But wisdom says, is this battle necessary? What happens if I stay silent? Is victory worth the cost? Will winning harm my peace? Sun Tzu believed the greatest warriors were not those who fought bravely, but those who fought rarely, because they understood the emotional cost of conflict. Peace is not cowardice. Peace is mastery. This chapter ends with Sun Tzu's deepest idea. True power is the ability to win without raising your hand, to influence without force, to dominate without violence, to succeed without destruction. To walk through life with such clarity, control, and patience that conflict dissolves before it reaches you. My friend, that is not just war strategy. That is emotional intelligence at its highest form. Winning without fighting is the art of protecting your energy, your peace, your purpose. It is choosing the life you want instead of the battles the world throws at you. And that's it for today, my friend. You were listening to Wise Alchemy. The story ends here for now, but you and I will meet again. Thank you.